ladies and gentlemen, it is starting to get hot in this kitchen. I told all that wanted to know that this isn't social media. This is serious media. So here's a piece of advice. Although for all those wishing to cover up corruption, if you can't stand the heat in this kitchen, don't leave the kitchen. You might as well leave the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your 8 o'clock edition of Black Belt The Voice. I am Gorman Bannister. I am Gorman Bannister. And this is called Black Belt's Kitchen. It'll be 40 minutes of heat. And let's see what happens. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Black Belt The Voice. I am Gorman Bannister. I am Gorman Bannister. It is October 2nd, 2018. It is Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the 8 o'clock Black Belt's Kitchen. And what are we serving up tonight? We're serving up a recipe called Who is Really What? Who is Really What? And ladies and gentlemen, we got to give you a pre-appetizer. I have an appetizer for you out the kitchen, but we have to give you a pre-appetizer. And it's called Black Belt's Breaking News, Breaking News, Breaking News, Black Belt's Breaking News. Ladies and gentlemen, an hour ago at the Walker's Hall on Bethel Avenue, the BUT Union, a meeting was called by the residing president at this time for all the relevant persons to be to the meeting, to be made aware of the suspensions of Linda Wilson, Lorraine Knowles, Mr. Monroe, I guess it is, and whoever the other guy is, whatever his name is, Musgrove. A meeting was called. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why law and order must prevail over outlaws and disorder. Belinda Wilson, Lorraine Knowles, and Mr. Monroe came to the meeting. They were told that they cannot come to the meeting and be in the meeting, and they had their hecklers with them. They can't be in the meeting, ladies and gentlemen, because they are suspended. They have no place in any meetings. They refuse to leave. Ladies and gentlemen, the police were called. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 police came to the meeting, and Belinda Wilson and her crew of criminals refused to leave even after the police told them they must leave. Ladies and gentlemen, as a result, the president, Mr. Turnquest, decided it is best to call the meeting off. Ladies and gentlemen, it was pandemonium in the place. I need to know if those police officers are related to either Belinda Wilson, Lorraine Knowles, or Mr. Monroe. How is it that police don't know how to restore law and order in a situation publicly? They know how to ask someone to leave the home if it's a domestic dispute, and it's usually more violent than that. What is it about Belinda Wilson that she cannot be treated as she acts, like a criminal? She acts like a criminal. And listen, she's one of them. If she acts like a criminal, believe her. She is that. Now you can't even hold meetings, ladies and gentlemen, in an orderly fashion for those who are supposed to be where they're supposed to be. See, ladies and gentlemen, let me see if I could get you all to understand what this is about. This is not as much as about Belinda Wilson and having stolen over hundreds of thousands of dollars from those poor teachers. No, because those poor teachers should have dealt with her a long time ago, having to buy new shoes because of the ones they would have left in her ass. No, this is not what this is about. This is about a menace to society. This is about encouraging felonious behavior. Now, the teachers obviously are abused by the behavior of Belinda Wilson and her crew of thieves. But the question is, why do we now allow ourselves to be abused by this scenario? They're saying that the ruckus could have been heard over into Yellow Elder. And the police were there. You police seem to be a little bit misdirected now. You all know what to do when Marvin Dames tells you all to go with Inspector Hall, to go break into somebody's premises. You know how to do that. You don't seem to have a problem with doing that. But you do not know how to order a person to leave a public premises, and when they don't, you don't know how to deal with that. So what happens now when somebody decides, okay, you're not going to deal with her, I'm going to deal with her, and you end up having to call an ambulance for her? Then you play a role. Ladies and gentlemen, you may find this not to be that important, but it is important from the aspects of tomorrow somebody will be taken by the police, have a bag put over their head, have their nuts squeezed, right, or have their ears punctured to sign a confession for being suspected of being disorderly somewhere. Just being suspected of it. Tonight was a case of true disorderly behavior, disobedience, defiant of the police. So what do you now do? Royal Bahamas Police Force, how far down are you prepared to reach, to be? Don't you realize that disorderly behavior in public creates disorderly more behavior in public? So what I'm talking about now is not Belinda Wilson and those teachers, because she will ultimately get what she deserves, as those teachers will also get what they deserve, because they obviously are all codependent with each other. I can't believe a handful of teachers in comparison to 3,500 is running roughshod over the teacher union money. Today, some teacher, wife or husband, is having medical issues that need constant attention, that they can't get any money from the union because Belinda Wilson done teeth it. The medical fund is non-existent because Belinda Wilson has stolen it all. And tonight, she decides she's coming to a meeting and not leaving, and the police come, and your police say, man, let me tell you something. Your police need to be locked up. But you know why? For impersonating a peace officer. That is why. For impersonating a peace officer. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the finger food in Black Belt's kitchen. The little finger food, the little grouper finger and little celery and little square carrot. That was the finger food. Now, let's go on to the appetizer. The appetizer. Now, I had asked about if that was Justice Indra Charles at the Immigration Department in the section where persons are interviewed on Friday past at 9 a.m. prior to issuing a gag order in the Shane Gibson case at 10 a.m. on Friday. You remember I asked that? Good. You remember I asked that? Okay. Then I asked if a defiance of a court order is subjective to how the justice feels, particularly in how Belinda Wilson blatantly defied Justice Ian Winder's order not to touch union money, and she proceeded to touch as much as she could and wanted, and starting 1 month right after Justice Ian Winder told her not to. And now I ask, what happened with the sentencing of Omar Archer for contempt of court by Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson? What happened to that? How could Archer show up to serve the 6-month community sentence at Eloise Penn Ward at Sandler's Rehabilitation Center and not serve 1 minute? Not serve 1 minute of his sentence. Not serve 1 minute of it. But I guess now he cannot serve it because he has a full-time job at Public Works with a position that was created for him, a construction registrar. But here's what I understand actually happened about this sentencing. Archer showed up at Sandlin's Rehabilitation Center to begin his 6-month community service at Eloise Penn Ward. He was sent to administration. They asked him for a letter that comes with those who have to serve community service at Eloise Penn Ward. It's a standard letter, I would assume, from a judge. He had none. It was said that management at Sandlin's Rehabilitation Center contacted the court and requested the letter. Archer then returned to Sandlin's Rehabilitation Center again to fulfill the justice's sentence. Management at Sandlin's Rehabilitation Center never received the letter, and there it stayed. And I'm sad because I would have liked him to have served that sentence on Eloise Penn Ward. He might think he was going to some country club, but then he would have to bring 2 pair of clothes every single day because them crazy niggas up in the back there, right? They might not have raped him because they may feel as though he ain't good enough meat for that, but they definitely would take his clothes off his ass. One would have been wearing one shoe, the next would have been wearing the other shoe. One would have had one leg and one part of the pants. The next one would have had another leg. They'd been walking around like the three-legged man in the circus, right? And in fact, for him to be safe, they'd have to put his ass in the side room, Omar Archer, to keep his ass safe. I'm sorry he missed that. I really am sorry. But now here's it. Now, what could have possibly been the case that the Justice, Grant Thompson, would disregard her own court order? Because that's what happened. That's what happened. I'm calling it as I see it. Public knowledge. Now, I would have to call that a first. Because other times, only hardened criminals or mentally unstable human beings might even dare, maybe even just think about it for a moment, ignore a justice's order. But in this case, the justice defied herself. That's how it seems as though. Because I understand Sanders never got the letter. Maybe it got stuck in the mail. Because how bad the Postal Service is. I don't know. But in any event, that is unique, to say the least. Now, I guess if you had to take your chances on which of the 3 justices that I've mentioned, and if you're not taken into custody, when you look at Justice Ian Winder, you might get a chance to commit the same crime again that he's ordered you not to do, like Belinda Wilson. Or, as far as Justice Indra Charles is concerned, she's a wild card in this matter because she's a foreigner. That was seen in immigration, though, before ruling that there should be a gag order placed on the Shane Gibson case. But that's only after 13 months of this case hanging around the court system. Well, it's her court, her rules. I ain't got no problem with it. Just letting you know, if you ever end up somewhere who you should take your chance with, then you got Justice Bethel Grant. So, in that case, if you're sentenced and a follow-up is needed to see if you've served a sentence that's not custodial, like up at Sanders, you just may get away without serving 1 minute. Period. You just may. That to me seems to be the scouting report. Now, however now, unless these patterns of behavior can be made law, I'm talking about what I have told you has occurred with these judges, with these justices, what has actually occurred. Ain't nothing I made up. These things happened. It was in the public that Belinda Wilson ignored a publicly written court order from Justice Ian Winder. It was in the public up at immigration that Indra Charles, Justice, was seen 1 hour before she ruled for a gag order in the Shane Gibson case. That's in the public. She didn't sneak up there. She was there. And it was in the public that Omar Archer was sentenced to rehabilitation, to Sandlin's. The guy even went twice to try to get in, the guy even went twice, But they had no letter sending him, and none came. So, the bottom line is, unless those type of behaviors can be made law, then something would seem to be forever sinister about how they just happen to work to this point. I would shudder to think that any of these justices would have encouraged, would have invited any help, and would have definitely rejected it outright. And the public would know that. Because no one tampers with the courts. That is what I understand that it should be. Now, as far as that is concerned with Omar Archer, the fact now remains is that there is a court order for him to serve community service. He was sentenced to community service at Sandlin's for 6 months. As far as I know, court orders have to be satisfied for justice not only to be done, to be seen to be done. So I would expect that this letter that didn't arrive would now arrive because he has been sentenced. If not, how do you then sentence somebody else, not only if it's similar behavior, but any behavior where contempt where they defy the order of the court? How do you do that? When really it wasn't their fault. So I would suspect that we will be hearing, in the sense of adjudication, jurisprudence, that we will be hearing that a letter did arrive and he must serve his sentence. And I don't know, maybe if they have meetings at Public Works for the construction registrar, maybe they could go up there and hold a meeting up there with him since he's in charge, that he's Lloyd Penn Ward. But they better bring some extra clothes too, because them niggas on Lloyd Penn Ward, I used to work there, them niggas up there, they'll take your clothes off you and wear them. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now move on from the, we still got, we got 2-course appetizer, before the main dinner. Just Black Belt's Kitchen, you get it like that. Now the only problem is, the majority of all like to sit down and eat. Some of these people don't like being dragged to the table to eat this stuff because they looking at what you eating, but they ain't eating what you eating. What they're eating is to cleanse them, then lay them out. What you're eating is to refresh you and cherish you. Y'all who are righteous. So let's go on to the second part of the appetizer. And I got 2 questions I want to ask if I could. After this criminal government went into the hotel business, wouldn't the name that I have been calling the hotel, the Grand Larceny Hotel, be appropriate? I think it is. And guess why? Because it's not the purchase, but it's what happens after that will give it the name Grand Larceny Hotel. Now, do you think it was stupidity that the criminal government only bought a building that just came through a hurricane last year? Now, to us, that doesn't make sense to do that and not buy the contents of the building. I mean, that doesn't make sense in the building. But to them, who use our money to buy contents via contracts given to their Kunky Joe nigger barbarian bitch family friends, and they got more lovers than friends and family, that one, just this one. It makes not sense, but all the dollars in the world. To them, it makes not sense, but it makes all the dollars in the world. So when are we going to figure it out? Figure what out, you may ask? That this criminal government bought an empty building with no necessities, with half the staff ready to go, and in the midst of a hurricane season, just to be able to strip it dry for a door with Kunky Joes as interim owners and contracts to give out. All the money coming in the front door with the Kunky Joes as interim owners and going out the back and contracts to give out. And guess who will be the only ones paying for their heist? It'll be us. It'll be us. But isn't it always that way? I got another question I want to ask you all, ladies and gentlemen. Now what? Now what? Let's see, since the government halfway purchased the Grand Larceny Hotel, what is going to happen to get some persons employed? First of all, there's a 10-year issue of back payments due owed union members. We had a discussion about that as far as being union. As far as they're union. They're people who you believe they're union. But anyway, and guess what? That same union leader, that Michelle Dorsett, right? Who's marching around as an effort, them so much assured that this government will do something. She only playing the game with y'all. That's all. She only playing the game because she ain't interested in y'all. She interested in her, Dion, and Peter can now do. And what about half the already working? How about those that are really already working one week on, 1 week off, employees that want a separation package? But that's those persons on the premises. What about any number of persons needing work, like yesterday? Shouldn't the government put some refurbishment exercises in place by staggering the hiring of 1,000 persons at a time to give the properties a fresh look? Yeah, how about put a team together to paint inside and outside? And how about put teams together to keep grounds maintenance? And in fact, how about put teams in classrooms to train to work in the hotel industry? Teams at 1,000 at a time with dignified stipends. Now, isn't that a way to get money on the ground in the families while freshening up the hotel appearance? But that would only make sense if this criminal government was interested in cents and not dollars. Now, you agree with that? But what are they actually doing? And what will they do now to get people employed, since they say that they wanted to save Freeport by purchasing the Grand Larceny Hotel? Now, right after passing that resolution to borrow the money week before last, shouldn't they have also announced a work scheme to start that Monday? Shouldn't they have done that right away? Shouldn't they have had that plan to do right away, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, that's what would have made sense. But they're not interested in what made sense, because what made sense helps us. What makes dollars helps them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us get on to now what's not in the news. And how we doing? How we doing? How we doing? Yeah, I'll sing for you at some point, but it's too critical right now for 8 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go on now. The school children of Bimini held a protest outside of Louise McDonald High School today. Their protest cry was that they wanted more teachers. In fact, one of the teachers was moved. Of course, this situation of teacher shortage is not a new one. But the fact that the fact that it had become dormant, the issue, yet still unresolved, falls squarely at the feet of the minister, Jeff Lloyd. Now, it's easy to conclude that Lloyd is negligent and even unfit to be Minister of Education because he claims to have the answers to our educational woes, and he also has claimed that he's delivered the educational system safe and sound to the future. That's what he says. Safe and sound, he's delivered it. But today in Bimini, the kids took the lid off of Lloyd's pretty box and spilled out the ugly truth. The truth is a serious lack of teachers in the school system. An unfit and ill-suited minister in Jeff Lloyd is one aspect of a shipwrecked educational system. The other aspect is the ministry's unwillingness to face the long problem of teacher shortage, because since this government and this minister, they've made it work as best as they could with the remedies available to them. Now, outside of poor policy by the government and the minister, there is a fundamental problem that lends itself to the Bimini children's protest today. There is a shortage of teachers in technical and specialty areas. These type of teachers are shared between 2 and 3 schools. The ministry has also brought back retired teachers. They call them supply teachers, I believe. They should only be working on a temporary basis for teachers who are out on paid leave, like maternity leave and whatever, what have you. Okay? But these teachers are retired or were retired because they're burnt out. And they should not be conscripted to do full-time work. Some retired teachers have been working full-time at $15 an hour for years. Likewise, the ministry and its minister operate on the supply of teachers in schools on a ratio basis, which means however amount of children is how many school teachers there should be. But that's a flawed principle. You cannot decide to place teachers according to the amount of students in the school. That can only work at the primary school level, where general education can be taught by teachers teachers trained to teach general studies. For the fact is, one teacher can teach a grade of children all aspects of education. This is not in primary school. And they end up staying in one classroom all day. But you can't have teachers based on a student ratio in high schools where there's specialized classes and students go from one class to another to learn specialized subjects. So if there are 30 teachers per ratio of students, on the surface, it will appear enough, but not if the majority are general student teachers. As a result of that, children may get a general education at the primary level, but when they get to the specialized level, children then pass through grades unprepared for college because of the disadvantage of imbalance of general and specialized teachers. In this aspect, the ministry is in denial and caught between poor policy by the minister and just simply not enough teachers, period. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on. Ladies and gentlemen, down in South Eleuthera, there's an issue in high gear on the ground. It concerns the emotional expressions of what should be done with what Bahamians hold more dear than life itself. It's the subject of what should happen with land. Bahamians feel very sensitive to the continued loss of land to big business developments. And when it's foreign entities, the emotional stakes hit the roof. And that is the environment on the ground in South Eleuthera about the lighthouse properties. Though the owners only want to sell the property, there are many other groups seeking to influence who purchases the lighthouse property and what should be done once purchased. This has caused persons to take sides. For me, there are just too many groups working to be heard and adhered to that the issue is being confused. And it's easy to be confused and hard to understand. So I won't name them nor give a scholarly report on the different groups. But there is one person who, by way of insider trading, is also using insider personnel to attempt to sway who ends up owning the property. That person is Member of Parliament for South Eleuthera, Hank Johnson. MP Hank Johnson has made it clear that he supports the Disney project. It is also said that he has former parliamentarians backing his support. For me, where the problem arises is where he would have a closer voice to those in the government that sits on the National Economic Council. The other problem for me is because of his insider status, he allows government workers to do media blitz supporting Disney on our time and our dime. All of this Hank Johnson is doing as an elected official that has access to the government apparatus. That access shouldn't be for his personal position as an undercover lobbyist, who likewise has his wife Shelley on the ground promoting Disney with visual and audio aids. In cases like this, the MP should only use influence afforded him to determine what the collective will of the constituents is and bring it to a non-prejudicial position to the government for their serious consideration. But in this case, the will of the people and the pull of money for the politician is in serious competition. It's emotion versus greed. The owners of the Lighthouse property and Disney are only the object. The subject is what will those representatives of the people decide is more important. And that's where amongst the many groups are some pirates, charlatans, wolves in sheep clothing, wolves in wolves clothing, and voices in the wilderness crying for the right thing to be done. But I wouldn't feel correct if I didn't remind South Lutherans that you're going to discuss the Lighthouse property and Disney. Well, if he's not prepared to say candidly that he's been holding up Disney's approval because a Brent crew also has an offer for the owners on the table, then you need to wonder what he's truly coming there for. And that reality may show you the recklessness of MP Hank Johnson. Because as an insider, he may know that Minnis is trying to get Brent the deal, pushing out Disney, and as a result, all of MP Johnson's support of Disney is just a sham. Just a way of him and his wife collecting some money from Disney until the government says no to the project. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think on that and see how it fits in to the reality on the ground. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the finale of our meal in Black Belt's kitchen, the dessert. Ladies and gentlemen, well, I see where $300 Dwayne is back in front of the television cameras. No, and not having to ask questions, and not having to answer questions as to why he consistently lied on the witness stand in the Frank Smith case. No, he was talking about a meeting he had with the doctors concerning their readiness to hold a strike vote. But I wonder if he realized what happened on Sunday just past. There was a message spreading like wildfire, super viral, on the World Wide Web about him having resigned. Now, I recognize that they had $300 Dwayne mixed up with Leonard Sands, so I didn't respond. But after about 100 texts saying the same thing, I shot a voice message back saying that it's not $300 Dwayne Sands, but Leonard Sands. And do you know what most of those persons I text, you know what they retext me saying? They retext me saying, yeah, they know Leonard Sands had resigned. But they still heard it was $300 Dwayne. Oh, boy. Ladies and gentlemen, that only goes to show how badly the general public wants that bagman. Which leads me to wonder if it's true what he said. He said that he had a meeting with the doctors and it went well. Well, he said it was only the first meeting though. Well, listen, after his performance on the witness stand, I hope you all don't mind if I prefer to hear the doctors tell me how the meeting went. Thank you very much. You all don't mind if I do that, right? I think it's safe. But let me ask something else. What happened to Mr. My colleagues know I care about them? Yeah, him. Yeah, Mr. My colleagues know I care about them. What happened to him? Didn't Minnis just say that on Sunday when he returned home from souvenir hunting at the United Nations? So how did $300 Dwayne get in that meeting with them doctors? Is Minnis trying to set up $300 Dwayne while people are presently calling for his head? And I understand they're supposed to have some type of march downtown tomorrow, calling for his head, some justice or something group. So, is Minnis trying to set up $300 Dwayne while people are calling for his head? Or Has Minutes just told another lie at the time to avoid the question about the doctors and their strike vote? Ladies and gentlemen, either way, the doctors, I'm sorry, should prepare for the worst. And what would the worst be? That could be a double blow. Meaning, Minutes telling the doctors he won't give them any more money, and $300 Dwayne asking the $100. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Black Belt The Voice. I am Gorman Bannister. This is October 2nd, 2018, which makes it Tuesday. Tonight's topic in Black Belt's Kitchen was who is really what? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you also let your friends know who may not know of it. Let them have the opportunity to know. And ladies and gentlemen, God willing, Black Belt's Kitchen, the part that's a part of Black Belt News, will be back tomorrow. We don't end up having to do a 4-hour show because this criminal government would have in one day being tomorrow would have done 4 hours, 4 hours worth of teething, or 4 days worth of teething. Because I'm sure they do 4 hours worth of teething. 4 hours is like lunchtime for them of teething. This is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Tell them, make the best of what it is, because we are going to show who is real. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.